Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. And today we have got a Nexpos video that's from 3 years ago, but I saw it and it caught my attention. I had to react to it, so we're going to do it. We're going to do it now. And it is a creator's dive into Turmoil. And we'll get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment what you think down below. If you like the channel with a donation, you can leave a super thanks or a link to my PayPal in the description. Let's go.
To find the Grail, you must look to the stars.
Drowned God. A 1996 point-and-click video game created by a man named Richard Horn, also known as Harry Horse. Stemming from the idea that the scientific origins of humanity are a lie, the game plays like an eerie looking glass into a disturbed mind. The game is, for all intents and purposes, a product of its time, and it was received mostly well. Containing an esoteric mishmash of historical beliefs, the game effectively bombards you with questions about your origins, connecting them to prominent conspiracy theories and secret societies, like the Illuminati.
That's insane to say like this was a thing in 1996. I don't know how popular of a game this was. This a popular game, Drowned God? Was this a popular game in 1996?
In turn, the end result is nothing short of perplexing. But something tells me that this was done on purpose. At the outset of Drowned God, you're greeted with a mysterious chamber and a strange voice explaining your place in its world. Allegedly, the reality that you're experiencing is a gift, and who it's from is presently one of the game's many mysteries. The voice explains that you've returned here from a previous life, and your current task, while obscure, is to unearth the secret that will enlighten you with answers about life itself. Trust too deeply, the voice warns, and you'll know the wickedness in men's hearts. As above, so below. As above, so below. This is the secret of the Drowned God.
I am so curious what this is about. What the hell happens? Is this just about the game? Because he's done ones just mainly on games before. Sort of. I'm not really... Thanks for letting me know that. That tells me this video ain't getting monetized, so any donation to help out the channel would mean a lot.
Something about 1990s PC games have this charm about them, and it's eerily pleasant. The atmosphere of Drowned God sucks you in, enveloping you within its bemusing lore from the outset. The gameplay is rudimentary, at least compared to modern standards, but back then that was mostly expected. The point-and-click game was nothing new, and Drowned God was, of course, one of many like it. Sanitarium, garage, mist, putt-putt, they were everywhere. What made it special, though, was the fact that it was so outlandish. It had layers, genuine lore, and a wild mishmash of conspiracies, all baked into an eerie little 2-hour package. To enjoy Drowned God meant that you had to believe in it, engross yourself in it, and suspend whatever counterbelief that was baked within your conscience. After the introductory monologue, you're left in a chamber called the Bequest Globe. Before you is a terminal, and after entering your name, it assigns you a number, a code name, and then presents you with a synopsis of your past lives. After observing this, a door opens up leading to two otherworldly beings named Keither and Malakut that explain that you need to collect 4 ancient relics for the secret of the Drowned God. Obtaining these involves utilizing a time machine mechanic known as the Crypto Wheel that teleports you to the regions in which they're kept. The first world is one named Bina, containing aspects of Arthurian legend and including references to Stonehenge. It takes you through a deserted wasteland before eventually dropping you off at a museum that I can only describe as uncanny. Like the Museum of Anything Goes. But that's a story for another time. The second, Chesed, showcases a submarine interior and Aztec ruins, all wrapped up within an eerily liminal desert. Something I particularly enjoyed here.
This is so fascinating because it's just the game itself seems exactly what you would expect with a creepy vibe. It's just, but there's clearly more to the story than just the game.
Were the numerous references to the Philadelphia experiment, a time-traveling invisible military ship conspiracy theory that's admittedly pretty damn creepy. An obvious hoax, but still pretty creepy. I'm sure you can see why it fit perfectly in a Drowned God though. The third, named Den, brings you to a carnival, a maze, and an underground subway system. The characters you encounter during this section don plague doctor masks and walk in the most unnatural manner possible. The carnival section, however, was a welcome change because it was throwing me Silent Hill 3 vibes. And that sure as hell ain't a bad thing. And the final world, Chalkma, takes you to a structure outside of Area 51. Everything's super quiet, super abandoned, super ominous. Once the game finally draws to a close, and you collect 3 of the 4 artifacts needed to unearth the big secret, you'll find that you're unable to, and are left to choose 3 separate paths leading to 3 different endings. Choosing the first path banishes you to a technological police state with men in black suits surveilling you. The second is much of the same, however you're forced into genetic manipulation against your will. And the final path? Well, that's my favorite one, because it welcomes you with a scene of aliens that cheerfully claim,
"We are coming, for we are Legion."
A bit forward, I'll admit, but that's Drowned God for you. Aliens helped create humanity. Because of course they did.
There are people who do believe that. There are people who do believe there was aliens that helped create most stuff on Earth.
Now, Drowned God within itself is undoubtedly creepy and absolutely warrants an entire review video of its own. It's got all the cornerstones of a dissectable piece of media with hidden secrets, a convoluted story, disturbing characters, and a creepy atmosphere. While that alone personally piques my interest, what you'd be surprised to know is that discussion about the game itself isn't actually why we're here today.
I assume so.
The game's creator, Harry Horse, is a peculiar person, and the backstory of his life behind the veil of Drowned God is nothing short of unsettling. But why? Reports had come out nearly a decade after the game's release that Harry Horse had passed away in a Romeo and Juliet-esque suicide pact with his wife Amanda Williamson. The couple allegedly overdosed on painkillers and died in each other's arms, with some outlets describing the scene as deeply moving and the final expression of the great love story that was their life together. While this may initially seem grievous, subsequent discoveries would later reveal that the reality of the situation wasn't quite so simple. Like I said, Harry Horse was an enigma, an outlier, a mind full of complexity, like a mad scientist. For the last decade of his life, everything around him was spiraling further and further into complication and misfortune. His wife was stricken by an aggressive form of multiple sclerosis, and as a result, Harry would regularly express his growing discontent for how his life was falling into place. The division and method of discovery between this alleged love story suicide pact and the media accounts surrounding it are another curious find as well, as the real details of what happened that night weren't released until months later. The story everyone was made to believe, this romantic tragedy, actually was a complete lie.
So this is what I'm assuming, that he killed his wife, killed himself, and for some reason the media decided to paint it as this beautiful love story of Bonnie Clyde, like Romeo and Juliet type death. Why?
In reality, things were much, much darker. Let me take it to the beginning.
Okay.
It's the 9th of May 1960. A boy is born to a Joe and Derek Horn of Warwickshire, England. They name him Richard, and he would be the first of 4 children. For most of his childhood, things are pretty good. The family reportedly lived in an upscale farmhouse without much conflict, and from an early age, Richard was known to have a fondness for art, frequently drawing the animals that he'd see on his daily walks with his family. All around, by those that knew him, he was regarded as a considerably friendly and stand-up child with a winning smile. By his teenage years, Richard would become increasingly aware that his life aspirations were at odds with those of his family. For instance, his parents were delighted when he eventually landed a job as a solicitor's clerk at a law firm. However, this occupation opened his eyes to where his passion truly was. Not in law, but in art. After quitting...
Unfortunately, that's some case. Some of your passions will not be seen as fruitful as the journey you should take, than others. So this family saw a law firm and they're like, yeah, that's the career you want. And he's like, nah, I don't. I want to be an art guy. I don't want to be a lawyer. Fuck lawyers. What did they ever do?
A short while later, and around the time he turned 18, he'd leave his home for Edinburgh, Scotland in hopes of sneaking into college art classes. He changed his name from Richard Horn to Harry Horse around this time as well, which his family believes was his method of burying his past life entirely. A rift that we'll soon find noteworthy. If you look like a student and you act like a student, then you basically are one. Harry claimed was his philosophy at Edinburgh University.
Yep.
And it seemed to have ultimately paid off, as just 5 years later, he'd release his debut children's book to remarkable success.
The Ogopogo.
His method of pulling this off, however, involved a significant amount of lying and persuasion. Allegedly, he had contacted the would-be publisher Canongate, posing as an agent and claiming that they should check Harry's work out. Needless to say, he ultimately landed that interview, and the rest is history.
Hey, look, hold on. We might think that I appreciate the hustle. The man was hustling to get his work out there. I can't nothing but respect to a man who's gonna hustle to get his work done. I respect that willingness a lot. Also, he still nailed the interview, so his part in his work did do still the work.
By utilizing this newfound knack for role-playing, Harry would launch a band called Swamp Trash in 1987. It was during this phase of his life that he would meet the woman he'd marry, named Amanda Williamson. She was a self-proclaimed #1 fan, and from the beginning, they reportedly hit it off. According to a friend, Harry was besotted with Amanda, and she was a sinner of sublime stillness. Something Harry reputedly needed, since, according to those close to him, he was prone to sudden outbursts of rage. From coworkers to bandmates, what most were unaware of was the fact that Harry would lash out for seemingly no reason, leaving them frequently taken aback by his polarity. I hate fucking dealers. They're the parasites of the art world. Profit margin obsessed, greedy individuals with no true understanding of art. He once unloaded onto a Scotland art dealer.
So bizarre. So he just would come angry out of nowhere and just unleash his rage on someone. And they would have no idea it's coming because nothing would set him off. That's fucking insane.
It was because of this notion that his peers would see him as a nice guy, no doubt. However, he had his demons and was undoubtedly unpredictable.
I'd say.
The game is about an alternative interpretation of the history of mankind.
The whole mystery of Drowned God is based on Atlantis and the position of these star constellations that form the same constellation as the Giza pyramids, the ground layout.
It's a puzzle game. Basically, the whole thing is unlocking a gigantic secret. And the game is thought about as a long crescendo from near ignorance into initiation and a new knowledge, which is genuine. You leave the game significantly with more between your ears and your heart, maybe, than you had when you started it.
It's about...
Having taken up an interest in conspiracy theories,
That's something. I don't really know how to respond to that. That guy, they seem to have a very interesting thought on how it works and what this game is and what it represents. They have a very specific version of how they see it.
Harry utilized his forgery and role-playing skills to craft a false manuscript dated 1846 that outlined an alternative history of the dawn of mankind. He impersonated an 18th century poet named Richard Henry Horne to pull this off, not to be confused with Harry Horse's birth name. According to Harry, Henry Horne took great interest in the legend of the Sons of God, and it was exactly the subject of my forgery. A wild coincidence according to him, but it was one that largely duped everyone, ultimately serving as the basis for the Drowned God storyline. By Halloween night of 1996, the game was released and was generally well received, selling over 34,000 copies in just 2 weeks. Described by some as the strangest, creepiest, most psychedelic adventure game I've yet to come across, it was safe to say that Harry had crafted something special. So special that he had planned a sequel named Cult to eventually tie the Drowned God story together. However, due to events that would soon transpire, that sequel would never see the light of day.
Oh? We're gonna assume it's his turmoil that causes that?
Contrary to his success in his professional life, Harry's personal life was crumbling. Amanda was officially diagnosed with an aggressive form of multiple sclerosis, leaving her health to rapidly deteriorate, and by the early 2000s, she was confined to a wheelchair.
Oof.
This downward spiral would carry on for the better part of the next decade, and those close to them could observe Harry's mental state mirroring this. After a myriad of smaller moves and life changes during the next few years, The pair would adopt a cat and a dog named Rue, and in 2004, they'd set up camp one final time near Amanda's immediate family in Shetland, Scotland. It was there where Harry was out of his element. As time would pass, his workload for caring for Amanda would increase, yet at the same time, his mind had a nagging desire to work back in Edinburgh. To Harry, the months began to feel longer. He was becoming increasingly uninspired, and by May of 2006, it was observed by his peers that his demeanor had reached somewhat of a breaking point. Catalyzed by the sudden passing of their dog Rue, he became indifferent, incalculable, and it resulted in a multitude of incidents. According to the Sunday Times, he berated a Shetland art gallery for its pretentious paintings. He punched a hole in a wall at a home during a bout with a social worker who was disputing Amanda's disability benefits. His family's relations were reaching a terminal phase, and he eventually cut contact with each of them. "I'm in a living hell," Harry once claimed, and this island that was supposed to be their home of tranquility was beginning to feel more and more like a prison cell. On the 9th of January 2007, two friends visiting from New Zealand would make a quick stop to check in on the couple. During their stay, Harry purportedly wasn't himself and was firing off claims such as, "It's a wonderful night for a killing." According to them, Amanda didn't want them to leave after their visit either. However, against their wishes, they left anyway.
Oh no, so I have a feeling, I bet it was that night. It seems she didn't feel safe around him. She probably thought he was gonna do something, and she's defenseless, right? She's wheelchair bound, so she's defenseless, but yet they left anyways.
"9:40 a.m. January 10th. On their way to the airport, the two friends returned to the house to retrieve a jacket that they left behind. The front doors open, and they head inside. Instead of being greeted by the couple, however, they encounter something a bit more grotesque. Their new dog and their cat are stabbed to death. Amanda is seen with over 30 stab wounds and a broken blade stuck within her. Harry's discovered with over 47 wounds on his arms and torso and mutilated genitals. The pair are lying close together on her bed.
Wait, so if it's all stabbed, why? This is even more confusing. Why did the media present it this way? Why did the media present it as this love story, Romeo and Juliet thing, if it's a gruesome murder? Murder-suicide. So weird. Why were they giving that information? Or why did they, if they knew the actual thing, why did they go that route instead?
There's blood on the floor, the windows, the walls, and the scene is unlike anything they've ever witnessed. According to the media, it's believed that that evening, Harry snapped after consuming an alleged cocktail of drugs, stabbing his wife over and over until the first knife broke off inside her. He grabbed another and continued stabbing her before shifting his attention to their two pets, and after killing them, he would turn the knife on himself, stabbing his own torso and genitals until both Amanda and he bled to death. The doctor who attended hasn't returned to work, an officer claimed. It's the worst thing he's ever seen. police, the scene was dark.
I'd say.
They went on record to claim that a murder like this hadn't happened in the Shetland Islands in over 15 years prior to the incident. The area was closed off and the investigation began privately. Though, on the outside, word of mouth began to spread. Because Scotland's investigators operate close to the chest, withholding details and official accounts, even today, everyone had caught wind that the pair were dead. However, nobody knew exactly why or how. It was because of this notion that the rumors would sprout about the pair potentially overdosing on Amanda's painkillers, since Harry couldn't have murdered his own wife, pets, and then himself.
Okay. So it's not like they knew. Media went by word of mouth because the police in that area in Scotland, on Starkland or wherever the heck it is, that people in that area keep it so close to the chest on what they reveal to the public that they don't reveal. So I admire that about police, but that also leads to bullshit like this.
Could he?
When it comes to media, I mean.
And so, during the weeks immediately following the incident, media outlets ran with it, dressing up the murder-suicide as an act of love. There were even plans to bury the two together, since the families believed that it's what they would have wanted. However, they were oblivious to the full story. It wasn't until days later that the families would catch wind of the actual details from the crime scene, and it's a bitter feeling that they still hold to this day.
I'm not surprised.
With that being said, because the case was closed so suddenly and the investigation reports are still confidential, the quote-unquote official ruling, the murder by the hand of Richard Horne, has also been the subject of scrutiny.
Why?
Evidence of this can be found on Wikipedia, through numerous articles, and even various blogs that the Horne family had set up. The root of the issue stems from the fact that in Scotland, a so-called fatal accident inquiry was never released. Having determined that it would be in the public's best interest to not know what officially happened that night, since the deaths didn't happen at the workplace or—
Hold on. Fatal accident inquiry is maintained by a 2016 Act. If the death occurred with deceased was in lawful custody or while they were at work, other inquiries may be held prosecuted. So the main issue was that, hold on, wait. How does the fatal accident inquiry work in this? Just by reading it, doesn't seem like it does. I guess maybe because he's in lawful custody of her? Like he has custody of her because he's the one taking care of her, I guess?
or in police custody, it's left the public largely in the dark. I've been
Again, even in 2008, we as a society, if we did not get told every little detail of what happened, then it's wrong. Like these people were not told every single detail about what happened. They were just told that they were murdered, that he murdered her, murdered the dog, murdered the cat, and murdered himself. And because they weren't told in specific detail everything that was happened, oh, it's a lie. Oh, that's not what happened. Oh, he did not murder. Oh, there's some screwiness with it. It's so weird about society that that's how we think.
in contact with a nephew of Harry Horse, and while they're well aware of the initial flowery misinterpretation in the media, they're left with the belief that vital details are missing.
Like
According
what?
to them, throughout this investigation, they've been excluded, misled, drip-fed information, and to date, everything that's been released has led to closed doors.
So here's my thought, right? This is where they're in the wrong, the police. The family, to a degree, has a right to know almost as much as they want to know. It's up to them what they do. If they reveal it, that's on them. If they get disgusted by it, that's their fault. They should have the right to know what happened to their daughter what happened to their father. Now, if you tell them, hey, your father murdered her and stabbed her 40-something times, and they go, no, he didn't, you're lying. Well, that's their fucking fault. That's what they believe. But at the end, you told them everything you have. But you can't. I think the family of both sides should know as much information as can about what actually happened.
Allegedly, Amanda's family were the only ones that acquired the full disclosure from that night's events, leaving the sole public source of information to come from them.
Throughout this, we have never been provided information pertaining to Mandy's death. All we have gathered has been through the media, however, have the privilege of fully disclosing the Interesting. Okay, so this actually has my curiosity here. If this is true, so Mandy's family had access to it, but they didn't?
One of the few official answers that the Horns were able to obtain was Richard's autopsy report, and the results are highly intriguing.
Okay.
As it turns out, the widely reported cocktail of drugs that he ingested the night of the killing actually wasn't so, since the presence of amphetamines, barbiturates, benzos, cannabinoids, cocaine, methadone, opiates, and paracetamol had all come back negative. And the same goes for his blood alcohol and urine alcohol levels, which were also at 0.
So he had no alcohol in his system, no drugs in his system, nothing. That would make me more suspicious of the fact of because even if we're not going to ignore the fact someone murdered him, because that could have happened, I guess. Technically, we have nothing that rules it out. I doubt it, since they have no enemies. So I don't know who would murder these two out of nowhere, and then who would kill a dog and a cat. Someone insane would have to, which this guy fit the mold for. But I do question, like, he would have to have straight lost his mind then. No one would be able to do that.
Aside from elevated levels of the antidepressant amitriptyline, he was otherwise entirely sober during this, leading the family to further question how he'd be able to pull off 47 self-inflicted stab wounds on top of self-mutilation. Were they murdered? A document they curated claims.
Were they murdered? To date, a high court judge and a forensic psychologist, among others, believe so. Someone got away with murder. Can we prove it? Time will tell. I don't think you will, because right now they seem pretty straightforward on what they got, and police don't seem to be wanting to budge. So if you believe they've been murdered, I don't think you'll ever prove it.
To date, a high court judge and forensic psychologist, amongst others, believe so. Someone got away with murder, but can we prove it? Only time will tell. Alright, Nexpo from the future here. The video's done, and I'm jumping back in here real fast with a quick addendum. If I'm being completely honest with you, this video has been difficult to write. The amount of information, personal takes, details, and running theories are so abundant that formulating a definitive opinion on what happened that night has been laborious. Harry was unpredictable. His peers and family don't deny that, and the painfully frustrating reality is that Amanda did not deserve to die, and especially not the way she did. I think, now in hindsight, the reason why this has been such a difficult topic is due to a myriad of things. The media, the claims by the Williamsons, the counterclaims by the Horns, and the lack of an official police report. I'll admit, there's so much that's been left out of this video, because if I went through everything, the runtime would be 2 hours long. With that being said, after you finish this video, I highly encourage you to read further into this bizarre story. It's got peculiarity after peculiarity. For instance, did you know that Amanda's father did not officially declare that Harry murdered his wife until over a year later? For that entire length of time, everything, every claim, theory, retelling was based on hearsay. Now, while this notion's suspect, and just firing off the top here, let's say that Harry did not commit this murder. A counterpoint to this would be that claim by the authorities, that a murder like this hadn't happened in the Shetland Islands in over 15 years. But the media got Harry's sobriety wrong, and he reportedly downed a cocktail of drugs to numb himself before committing this crime, right? Well, no. The toxicology report countered that.
This is a case. This is a situation here where so much is missing and so little information is out, and so many things just from media to all this doesn't add up, that it leaves room for you to not be confident in almost any decision. Anywhere you go, there is doubt.
So once again, if we're assuming that Harry did not do this, then who would?
Yeah.
The island that the couple passed away on has a population of, as of 2016, 907 people. 907. So it's safe to assume that someone on the island would have known or heard or seen something had an external party committed this. Sensationalism, frustration, confliction. That is the Achilles heel of everything about this tragedy. The story of Amanda Williamson in Harry Horse is a metaphorical amalgamation of tension, devolvement, and madness. After leading a life of lies, Harry Horse had found great success in his professional life. However, the reflection of himself in his personal ultimately created a character that he grew further and further from recognizing. The events that played out that night are the summit, the breaking point of a relationship that could have been, should have been so much better. Yet the circumstances that surrounded them ultimately crumbled into calamity. It's been regarded by many as the perfect catastrophe rooted in lunacy. Killing the ones you love before turning the knife upon yourself is a testament to the burning resentment that was buried within him all along. Well, at least that's how it was portrayed in the media. And that's the main issue with this entire predicament. It's one that's wrapped up in he said, she said, media sensationalism, and journalistic misinformation. Ultimately, cruel distortion or not, this entire affair has taught us to never take anything at face value. Whether the events that played out on January 10th were a gruesome murder-suicide by an unpredictable husband that lost his mind, or were the work of an external group of individuals that got away with homicide, what's undeniable is the notion that the legal system in Scotland is frustrating, ultimately leaving us with limited information on not only Harry Horse himself, but Amanda Williamson, their family.
Did anyone ever look into the friends who were there with them? Because the friends who were last with them, all we have on how they felt, how they ended, how everything is their words, so they were the last ones there, and we even want to go with the theory that it could have been a murder on both of them. Should check them out.
Families, and everyone else that surrounded them. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon. I love you all. And good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this reaction video. Let me know what you think in the comments, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.